Last hour, Premier Doug Ford announced a plan to allow alcohol sales in convenience stores and more grocery stores. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is tracking all of those details. So tell us a little bit more about this announcement today.
Well, Ontarians will still have to wait a while before they can go to their local corner store to buy a beer, because this won't start until 2026. But starting that year, people in this province will be able to buy beer, wine, cider, and some of those pre-mixed drinks in cans in convenience stores and more grocery stores across the province. Right now, you can't buy those products in any convenience stores, and you can only buy some wine and beer in some grocery stores. The number of grocery stores who can sell those products capped at 450 stores across the province, and they're not allowed to sell anything bigger than a 6-pack of beer. With these new rules, they will open that up so more stores can sell more products and in bigger quantities. So no restrictions on whether it's a 6-pack, a 12-pack, or a 2-4. The LCBO will continue to be, though, the only retail outlet chain where you can buy a bottle of vodka, for example. So that will not change. Doug Ford has been trying to do this and wanting to do this for years, Arthi. This was a campaign promise he made in 2018. It has taken until now and been more complicated, he said, than he thought because of what's called the Master Framework Agreement. This was an agreement signed between the Ontario government and the company that operates the beer store retail chain, and they're owned by some big multinational beer companies primarily. And that agreement largely dictates the rules around selling beer and alcohol in the province. That agreement is due to expire December 31st, 2025, and the Ontario government has now given notice that they will not renew that agreement. They had to give that notice by the end of 2023. So that's why this news in part is coming out now. Now, there's still a lot of details to be worked out still, some consultations to come on exactly how this will work. But the Premier and the Finance Minister promising at a news conference that this they'll consult with a lot of stakeholders and that they take social responsibility very seriously. Doug Ford saying, though, that it's time to treat adults in Ontario like adults. Here's what he said.
You know, you can't have all of Canada, all the US, the entire world being able to go into a big box store, a retailer, and pick up a case of beer or a bottle of wine. We got to treat our people of Ontario like adults, and that's what we're doing. They have a responsibility to drink responsibly, don't drive, take an Uber, take a taxi, but that's what we're doing. We're actually treating people like adults, and I have all the confidence in the world in the people in Ontario that they're going to be responsible.
And he said he also has confidence in convenience store owners and staff once this gets going to be responsible as well, much like they are in terms of how they sell tobacco, the Premier said. One other thing to note is another change that will come into effect in 2026 is to allow for competitive pricing at these private retail stores. Right now, those grocery stores that are allowed to sell wine and beer, same price. It's kind of a set price no matter where it's being sold. That will change in 2026. So there'll be some competition in terms of pricing for these products. The prices in LCBO stores will remain set and uniform throughout the province. The beer store will continue to still have a role in the market. The government is saying they can continue operating their stores just like they do now. They also will continue their massive distribution network. That is one of the roles they play right now, is supplying the alcohol to bars and restaurants, for example. They will continue to play that role beyond the expiration of this agreement as well, Arthi. So those are some of the important details to know about this, and also that consumers will still be able to bring their empties back to the beer store to get that deposit refund. That will last for another 5 years after the agreement expires until 2031.
And now, Megan, we obviously saw there in the announcement that the province, the Premier, is very enthusiastic about it, but there's also a lot of reaction. What sort of reaction are we seeing so far, or are you expecting?
Yeah, he definitely is excited about this. He noted even though he doesn't drink alcohol himself, he thinks this is a good move, a good day for the province. It's all about convenience and choice. The news release that the government put out included a lot of reaction from stakeholders they've been working with, including groups like the Convenience Industry Council of Canada, Ontario Craft Wineries, Ontario Craft Brewers. They are applauding this move. Quite a few of these groups have been lobbying for this for years. They say it's about time that this happened in Ontario. Again, still not going to happen until 2026. There's also a group called Free My Booze, which started a few years ago. They say they act as the voice of consumers. Here's some of what they're saying.
It makes the Ontario's alcohol liquor market more modernized and more like almost everywhere else in the world. It puts us to similar to a Quebec model, which has always been superior to Ontario's in terms of consumer choice.
Yeah, so a lot of these groups saying the current restrictions are just antiquated, they're outdated, so they're anxious for this new regime to come into place. But not everyone will welcome this news, Arthi. We've heard in the past from health experts, for example, and researchers when the government's talked about loosening the restrictions on alcohol in the province, who have expressed concern about the impact on community safety, on public health. Groups like the Ontario Safety League are concerned, especially with young people potentially having easier access to alcohol. So they're not exactly applauding this move. As for a reaction from the beer store, they have a statement out saying that with today's announcement, they look forward to the next stage in the beer store's evolution, where our role as primary distributor, recycling steward, and responsible retailer are preserved and poised for growth. The company says they've been making investments in their businesses over the last few years, and they think those investments will help them be able to compete successfully in this new marketplace once it gets going. And all these other stores are going to be allowed to sell the same products that they do. So that's part of their reaction, and we'll be watching out for more throughout the day, Arthi.
Thanks for this, Megan. That is the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick in Toronto.